Kidnapped, walking the scene with you in old flicks from the 90s. So keen, the VHS club, they're the talk of the town. Breaking it down, spreading nostalgia all around. Moving and grooving to the synth-pop sound. The insight so fresh, painting pictures profound. From Pulp Fiction to Clueless, they know it all. The genuine love for movies stands tall. Unfolding memories on that VHS screen, talking about classics like you've never seen. Katie with her charm, Matt with that wit. Together they make the VHS club legit.
Welcome to the VHS Club. Hey, Jeff. Hey, everyone. It's
Howdy.
Thursday. Thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight, Jeff. I'm super excited to be diving into this one.
Yeah, this is. I'm so excited that you actually watched it because that's what's cool. Because it's one of my favorites, and you mentioned that you had never seen it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you gotta watch this.
I think that my all-time favorite part of this show is like when we initially started the VHS Club podcast, the thought was like, okay, well, we can keep rewatching all the movies that we really love, and then we can talk about them, which is what we were already doing. And what's become even more fun for me is finding out what people's favorite movies are and having not seen them getting to watch. Like it's as much fun for me to check out people's movies that I haven't seen as it is to rewatch all of my all-time favorites. So I was thrilled, thrilled and delighted.
Yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one.
Well, tonight we are talking all about Innerspace, and it looks like Josh is like me. Josh was like, have not seen this one, so Josh is waiting to be convinced. So we are here. I see, but mostly Disney is hanging out with us. I see Kira is hanging out with us. A lot of people who haven't, or a few people who haven't seen this one. So we'll have to break it all.
So how much spoiler can I give? Like, can we spoil it? I mean, like
all the spoilers.
It's been out since the 80s.
All the spoilers on this show. We were talking about super old movies, so yeah, all the spoilers on this show. So let's kick it off. I last minute told you that you had to give us a brief description of what this movie is about. But before you do that, I want to ask you. So I gave you like all of the choices from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. And this was the movie that you came back with. So is there a particular reason why? Is this like an all-time favorite? Is this just one you really wanted to rewatch and talk about? What's the story?
I think it is an all-time favorite. Like, I mean, because I really, one of my favorites, and we've talked about having me on for Ghostbusters, because that's probably my favorite, but everybody's seen that one. But this, like, you hadn't seen it, and like other people in the comments hadn't seen it. And I just, it's got people that people still love, like Martin Short. Yeah. Like, come on. Yeah. Like, and he's really young. I think this is even before Three Amigos.
It was
I'm not sure.
I think as I read a bunch of facts, it was right on the heels of Three Amigos, which didn't perform
it's right
as well.
After,
so this was like his bounce back.
Yeah. And I had totally forgot that Spielberg produced it. Like, I had totally forgot that. So I think it is one of my favorites, and we were talking about a little bit because I was 15 when this came out, so a long time ago. And my dad took me this for my birthday, and I remember it was a special memory that, Dad and I went, just him and me, probably on a weekend, and we went and saw this, and I loved it because this was cutting edge effects. I mean, I don't know about you, you just watched it. A lot of the effects still hold up, I think. Like,
they hold up?
I really,
They hold
Pretty
up
good.
really well. Yeah, I was really
Yeah.
impressed by all of it. Okay, well, so for the few people who have not yet seen this one, and you can read from IMDb if you want, but in a nutshell, what is this movie about?
So it's a comedy. So it's a sci-fi comedy for one, which there aren't many of those. Maybe
No.
Weird Science and some of those, like, so it's got its own little genre. But it's what it is about. It's a test pilot, which is Dennis Quaid, is miniaturized in a secret experiment, and it's accidentally injected into a hapless store clerk who is a neurotic Martin Short, and he's hilarious. I think I love it too because the comedy is really good. I've always loved Martin Short. He does some funny things in this, and I just like everything about it. It's even got the guy from the original Invasions of the Body Snatchers in it.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
That's Kevin McCarthy. Yeah,
I don't know if I
that's
noticed
him.
that originally. Yeah.
That's him.
You're right. We do a
Yeah.
lot of, I don't know if you do this, but I do a lot of now, like old person sitting on the couch, IMDbing. I'm like, that guy, where do I know that guy from? So yeah.
I'm really good at that. Like I can usually pick them out, and
Nice.
we'll have these arguments because my wife will go, Jody will go, oh, that's, and I'm like, no, I know who you're thinking of, but that's not him. Like we do that all the time because she gets really like, they may have the same color hair, and then she just thinks that's what it's supposed to be.
We have a long-standing joke in our household that so my husband and I have been together for forever. We were like just one level up from high school sweethearts, and he cannot pick Gwyneth Paltrow out of a lineup, and for the longest time, like, and she was like very famous when we first started watching movies together and hanging out together. And I kid you not, every movie that we would turn on, he'd be like, now who's that woman? And I honestly, like, after a while thought it was a joke, and it was not a joke. It was like, that's still Gwyneth Paltrow. Once again, still Gwyneth Paltrow.
That's
And
funny.
he can point out just about anyone else, but for he's just like Gwyneth Paltrow blind. He just cannot identify her in a movie. Maybe he's gotten better. It's been a while since we've watched a new Gwyneth Paltrow movie, but yeah, he was not able to point her out. So yeah.
But yeah, this movie, I mean, and Meg Ryan.
And Meg
like
Ryan.
everybody who's my age had a crush on Meg Ryan. I'm sorry.
I
It's
still
true.
have a crush on Meg Ryan.
She's really good in this one too. I mean, I think my wife and I were dating when Harry Met Sally came out, which was another great movie.
Another great one.
But she's really good in this one too. She's the hero Tuck's girlfriend. So it's really fun to see all of these people that we know and love. So
Well, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one from start to finish. I don't know, I went in pretty blind. I, like you said, what the name of the movie was, and I was like, I think I've seen that, because I recognize, and I still like viscerally remember the cover. Like I feel like I probably like walked past it in the movie store. Maybe I've like seen clips of it on TV or things, but and the storyline, like. I knew enough about, like, I was just like, oh yeah, like a person that's trapped in another person's body. Like I feel like I probably, I have this like, I have this like memory of being in, maybe it was like high school or younger, I wrote a short story that was like a similar kind of storyline. So I can't, somewhere in my mind, I was like, yeah, I've seen this. And then I sat down to watch it this week and I was like, nope, actually have not seen this, or cleared it completely from my mind. So it was fun. It was fun going in it, blind, and it was also really nice because, as you said, like a lot of these movies when we rewatch them, particularly slapstick comedies, which are like some of my all-time favorites, they don't age well. They don't hold up well. You watch them and
I was really worried because I couldn't
yeah,
I couldn't remember, like, and I was like a little nervous when the cowboy came in and all that. I was like, okay, is this going to be one of those spots? And it wasn't bad. Like it wasn't cringy. Like I know what you're talking about. Like some of you were like, okay, that's not cool anymore.
Yeah,
but,
like this one held up. And I think part of it is Martin Short. Like I was, as I was watching it, it just took me back to like, he was in Pure Luck, which is another one of my like favorite childhood movies. And it's like there were like definitely a group of movies in the 90s that were like slapsticky, but also really sexual. And I think those ones don't hold up very well at all today.
Right.
But this one was just like kind of like slapsticky and silly without any of that, which it made it, you know, stand the test of time. And I agree with you. I think the special effects actually held up really well. Like we've rewatched a lot of movies that have been like real bad, where you're like, oh, okay,
Right.
that was really
See the
badly
real
done.
big matte line,
Yeah.
the matte line on the green screen. You're like, okay, that's not good.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about that, because I've been watching at Disney on Disney Plus, the second season of Light and Magic, because I'm a big fan of Industrial Light and Magic. I bought their 50th year anniversary T-shirt. I should have worn it, but anyway, I was like, I wonder, because I've been watching. I'm wondering, because Spielberg's there and he loves Industrial Light and Magic. And then I double checked, and they did the effects. So Industrial Light and Magic did do the effects for this, and so it's really good. You talked about Martin Short when he did. There's a scene in this movie where he kind of gets drunk and he does a dance, and it's really close to Ed Grimley. Do you guys remember him when he would dance? He would have his pants tucked in really tight, and he would do this dance. He was on. There's a show, SCTV. That was in Canada. Was that that was a Canadian show?
It was, yeah.
Anyway, did you see in the doctor's office 2 cameos?
No, I am
Those
the
were
person,
his-
Jeff, that does not notice anything in movies unless I've read that. So enlighten me and the rest of the people watching.
So when he's in the doctor's office waiting to see the doctor, the 2 people beside him when he goes, "I'm possessed," when he's getting talked to, are his castmates from they're from SCTV. The lady is, and the other guy is as well. So that's kind of a cool little cameo.
I just thought I love that, and I thought, and again, I'm just a huge Martin Short fan, so obviously he's going to be like the reason why I love this movie. But I love the concept of like he's like the level of crazy hypochondriac that like doesn't seem to be really like a character anymore. But I kind of, and he's played this type of role a couple of times, but but he's like this, you know, sort of like super nice guy. Like, and even the doctor at the beginning is like, you know, like you're basically like carrying my office. You're here all the time. Like they're like friends, and he's taking the, you know, the advice seriously. So I sort of love I hesitate to even say, but like almost like the coming of age story of this hypochondriac who like can't get out of his own way. Everything, you know, about his life is kind of somewhat sad and miserable. Like it's funny, but also like somewhat sad and miserable. And this like crazy thing happens to him, which obviously would never happen in real life. And it gives him like the push that he needs to like get kind of outside himself and give him all of that level of confidence. And I love, so we come kind of full circle. So if you're keeping up, he literally gets injected with a syringe by like a crazy scientist running for his life, and ends up with Dennis Quaid's character in a tiny submarine vessel inside Martin Short's body. And they have this kind of great relationship back and forth where Dennis Quaid as Tuck is inside Martin Short's body and is like trying to talk to him to give him like the advice that he needs to be able to solve this problem, right? Get away from the crazy people and also like get out of Martin Short's body. But there's this moment at the later part of the movie where they've been like kidnapped by the bad guys and everything is going horribly wrong. And Dennis Quaid is no longer even inside Martin Short's body. He's inside another body. He's inside Meg Ryan's body. Right. But Martin Short just believes himself to be awesome because of this relationship. And he's like, Tuck, are you there? Like, make me 5 times as strong so I can like punch these guys.
Give me the strength of 10 men.
Give me the strength of 10 men. And I just love that moment because it's just this moment of like, oh, he's just so like filled with confidence because of this relationship. Like this has just been life changing for him. And I think it's just, I don't know. That was probably one of my favorite non-slapsticky moments of this movie where it was just so pure and nice.
Well, and you, in that same note, I really liked the chemistry that Meg Ryan and Martin Short had. Like even at the end when they're going, you know, they get everything's happened, and you know the climax, and the other cool thing, because there's a clock that's running that keeps the tension going throughout the movie, because he runs out of air like the next day, and they have to get all this stuff. He will die. And so there's that tension. Is he going to get out? That kind of stuff. But at the end, when everything's okay, and you know, Tuck gets his girl back and all this stuff, you see that look between Meg Ryan and Martin Short, and there's like, there's feelings there, but not as, and he's okay with it, and and then he's like, and what you were talking about at the very, very end, he is this new man, and he drives off to save the day once again. Yeah. I really thought there might be a sequel because they kind of set it up like things were happening. I was like, I'm kind of glad they didn't, but anyway, I just thought
they should do a sequel now. Now is the
that would be hilarious, wouldn't it? That would be so fun. Yeah.
Yeah, with all the crazy special effects now. Yeah, we would be remiss not to talk about the like crazy ridiculousness of this. So go with us on this journey. Miniature Dennis Quaid is inside Martin Short's body, which is already ridiculous and incredible.
Right.
By the way, the scientist who gets out as the bad guys are trying to steal this technology and like runs through the streets with this syringe. He's the only character that dies in this movie. And he like sacrifices himself to save Dennis Quaid. So pour one out for the incredible scientist who gives his life for.
Do you know the story for that? The scientist. So Joe Dante was the director, right? His cinematographer, his cinematographer was that scientist. And Steven Spielberg said, "Hey, you should have him read for that part." And they're like, "No, that he won't do. That's stupid. Why would I have my cinematographer do it?" And he did it, and they loved it so much. That is his cinematographer that he always used for his show. Awesome. Is that scientist?
Well, I loved that character, and I don't even think I fully realized until the end. I was like, wait a second, I think he's the only one that doesn't make it, which is so sad, but kind of incredible. Right. Yeah. But yeah, so they have this great relationship because you have Martin Short, who's playing kind of this, like, again, he's a totally terrified kind of person. He thinks he's dying all the time, and then he's got this tiny person inside his body. And like, I just realized how difficult both of those acting roles would be. Like Martin Short has to be slapsticky and silly, which it may seem easier, but I would challenge it's not. And then Dennis Quaid doesn't get to do all of that. He's like, but both are.
He's in a box.
He's in a box. Yeah. So he's like, but both of them are by themselves in different spaces. So in the same way that like actors who have to play, where it's like they're, by themselves and there's like animated characters around them, or like where they can't actually see the other actors. These two had that at least for the first, 3/4 of the movie before Meg Ryan comes in to be a sidekick. Right. But for a lot of the movie, like it's just Martin Short doing like crazy things where he's like hearing voices or he's trying, or like he's, getting drunk and dancing around wildly or doing all these other slapsticky things. But it's hard. Comedy requires typically like feeding off of other people's energy, and to do it by yourself, I think is really hard. And then Dennis Quaid, not having someone else to bounce those things off of, I think would have been really difficult, but they both pulled it off really well.
Yeah. I wonder if they were in the same room. I didn't see that in the trivia, like, because he was in his head with his voice most of the time. Yeah. And I mean, some of it was a little silly. Like, I don't know if you noticed, like, he'd be in one part of the body, and then all of a sudden he'd be in another part of the body. I'm like, that, and like how they switched bodies, like when he went inside of Meg accidentally was from a kiss, and then they just kissed again, and it went back. Like, I was like, okay, even as a teenager, I was like, that's a little stretch, but it was still funny. It was still good.
Yeah, there was definitely that moment where I literally like got my remote and paused it, and I was like, wait, he's not in Martin Short's body anymore. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna play this out, because I was being me and I was crocheting while I was watching. So I was like, maybe I missed something like important, and I kind of like backed up a bit. And then I played it out. I was like, nope. Yeah, no, he just somehow
just happened.
They kissed. Drove himself out. In
very, very wet kiss is what it was. Yeah. So that was the thing. Anyway, that was this. I mean, it's very much sci-fi comedy, which like we said, you don't have a lot of those. I'm trying to think of even another one that I can think
Weird
of.
Science. Kind of I'm trying to think what else is.
I mean, Ghostbusters had some science-y stuff in it, but not like. I mean, this was, you could tell, was very much based on Fantastic Voyage, which is a totally serious. I think it's a book and a movie in the '60s. Yeah, and that's where they actually came up with the title. It's
an Asimov book, I believe, right? Or did I?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, yeah, I think it is Fantastic Voyage, and it was a great book. I read it when I was a kid, and they got the name Innerspace because he says it a couple times in Fantastic Voyage. He talks about the outer and the inner space, and they took that for the title. So, but yeah, I mean, the special effects were good, and then the guy who played the cowboy,
Yeah, let's
Robert
talk about the
Picardo,
cowboy.
and he's the doctor in Voyager. If you're a Star Trek fan, he's the doctor in Voyager,
He is,
and
yeah.
which was very cool. But he did a great job too, because and then the face, you know what I'm talking about, when they had this somehow miraculously by stimulating electro things in when he was in the submersible in Martin Short, that he was able to rearrange his face.
Yep.
And one of the things is because his face gets all contorted, and it's really funny. But then he has to go play to try to get the chip back to get resized again and all this stuff. But it was really funny, and I told Jody when she was watching, I said, I think I'm going to get some of those snakeskin underwear just to have, just to the Speedos. But no.
Bad guys in this movie are so, I want to say, like Austin Powersy. Like they're like,
I think you're
like
right.
completely
That's good.
ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
there's not really any clear explanation throughout the movie as to like what their plan is to do, like why they're like, they sort of allude to like why they might be stealing this technology, but they don't really seem to have any like specific reason as to like why they even know it exists or what they're going to do with it. And the one bad guy has like a giant white dog that he's just
Yeah,
like,
that's
that
right.
he's like in rooms with.
yeah.
Like if it had been a cat, it would have been very, very Austin Powers.
Right, Austin. Yeah, it was still very. I mean, and he was very over the top. I mean, I thought and then the really bad guy, like the thug, he didn't say one word except for screaming at the end.
Yeah.
That was it.
But he had the
so-
not the robot like arm, which made him really cool.
Yeah, he was like and if you noticed on his car, the vanity plate said "Snap On," so because he could like snap on tools, and so he could snap on the So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah,
But-
it was perfect. And then the woman was equally bad. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
The bad guys were almost as fun as the rest of the movie. They just really, they held their own. And I loved it. So we get, and again, spoilers. Sorry for those who haven't seen it,
Right,
but hey,
sorry.
we're
It's
going
still
back in
worth
time.
watching, even if we're
Still worth
spoiling it. It's still
watching.
worth one. Yeah.
This show is at least 90% trying to convince Josh and Val to watch movies they may not have seen. So here we're in on this, but throughout the entire movie, there's these crazy bad guys that are trying to cause issues, and we're getting closer to this timeline of Dennis Quaid not making it. We get all the way to the very end, and in this hijinks of being kidnapped, and who has the technology to be able to get Dennis Quaid out of there. The bad guys end up getting miniaturized, but they're not like all the way miniaturized. So
Yeah,
they're just,
50%.
they're
50%. Yeah.
They're 50%, so they're just like kid size, toddler size.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Which is just fabulous. And they're angry, like cartoonish arguing with each other at the very end of the movie. Again, might be one of my favorite parts of the movie.
And their voices are high too. Like it's not like it's like it's just very funny. It's like something out of Willy Wonka.
Yeah, it's something out of Willy Wonka, or like a Pinky and the Brain '90s cartoon.
Right.
Cartoon. It's very, It was just awesome. Do you have? So I'm always really bad at this. I can never remember quotes out of movies. But do you have a favorite quote or a favorite scene that you just like seeing it again? You were like, "Yep, that's it."
When when he first hears Tuck, he's already neurotic. So remember that. Like he's already like. The first time you meet Martin Short's character, he's in a doctor's office and he's got all these ailments, and the doc is just like trying, so he's back in after he gets Tuck in. Tuck hooks this thing onto his eardrum and he starts talking to him, and he's freaking out. And so he's in the doctor's office and he goes, "I'm possessed," because he kept hearing, him talk to him. And that's the one line I remember. And then of course the face change when they're all, when he does that. And it's so funny because it's exactly what I did in woodshop in high school. You could tell his air being shot in his mouth and moved around, but it's still hilarious.
The stuff that actors have to put up with is just wild sometimes to think through. They're like, just stand there for a little bit while we blow air into your face at really high levels.
Exactly.
It's going to look awesome for the shot. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of any other, I don't know if there's any good quote other than the "I'm possessed" one. And the strength of 10 men. I mean, that whole
The
sequence.
Strength of 10
when
Men
he's-
was pretty great.
Yeah.
There is a quote, and I
Yeah.
can't remember the exact words of the bad guys at the very end when they're like half-sized, where they're trying to use a payphone to call, and they don't have
Oh,
the coins. And he's like, "All my
Yeah.
critters are miniaturized," or something to that extent, and it was
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah. I'll tell you the thing that
those are
stuck.
good ones.
The one that stuck in my that stuck in my head the most after watching it was the music in it's really good.
Yeah.
Like it's got the Cupid draw back my bow, and then some the twist. I mean, those kind of earwig kind of songs that they plugged in there are kind of those classic old songs, and I thought that's pretty cool. I mean, I'd forgotten about that, so
Yeah.
those are good songs.
Those were good songs. Did you think so? This is what hit me throughout maybe like the latter half of the movie. But I was like, okay, so Martin Short's character is completely a hypochondriac. He's like, concerned that all these things are going wrong with his body, and we like know that to be true. And then we're watching all this stuff happen. But there are a lot of moments in this movie where like having a miniaturized person inside of him is causing like all kinds of bodily damage. I'm like, this poor man is now actually going to have like a reason to be afraid. Like they're like slicing through things and like, as you said, like shooting around his body. They're they're really taking a toll on this guy's body in a whole bunch of different ways that I was like, oh, this doesn't feel good.
Yeah, it was. There were some kind of grossish parts when you think like even the claw when it like grabbed on to like from the submersible and it's like kind of in that goo.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And the stomach acid. So one of the bad guys meets his demise in stomach acid, which is really funny because Tuck, who was in the submersible, had to get what is Martin Short's character? I can't remember now. Jack, yeah. Jack's is Martin Short. Get him nervous so his stomach acid bubbles up and pretty much melts the bad guy on his submarine. So yeah, I mean some of it is it's really interesting because they did most of it. I don't think there was any computer effects in it. I think it was mostly done practically. Didn't you say something about Jello? A lot of the stuff was made with
a lot
Jell-O?
of the like scenes that you see that are inside the body were done with some level of Jello involved, which makes sense, but also kudos to that team because it like again at no point during it, like it felt like I was watching a movie from the 80s, certainly, but at no point during it was I like, well, those were terrible effects or like eye roll at the like they looked believable enough to me.
So one thing I did notice when doing my reading, not notice, but I found out this was one of the first movies that when it came out to VHS was in widescrreen.
Ooh.
And it was in the theaters. It had the brand new sound system to it. It didn't used to have like the
Dolby
like the
Digital
audio
or
was way better. Yeah, it was like better than. I think this is way before THX and all that stuff. But it had a new upgrade for the sound when they did it. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, it was one of the first ones that was on widescreen.
I wonder
on your TV.
why this movie. I didn't actually look this up, and maybe Paul, if he's in the chat, can give us this information. But I wonder why this one. I feel like there are a lot of movies out there that like you say the name of them and everyone's like, oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like this one is one where it was like, what is that movie again? Okay, right. Like it doesn't have sort of the, or at least it didn't seem as though it had kind of either the cult following or just the name recognition of a lot of other movies, but had like was a great movie, had a great cast, and was Steven Spielberg. So it's interesting if it was just like timing or or they've just all created so many amazing movies that it's just kind of
I thought because when you're a kid you don't care.
Yeah,
You're just at the movies, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't. And I was like, I don't remember it doing bad. I remember watching it a lot of times afterwards when it came out on VHS.
Yeah.
Because I liked it because I thought it's fun and clever and this. I was big into special effects and I really liked how they did some of that stuff in there. So yeah.
Well, we didn't talk hardly all about Meg Ryan's character, so maybe we should jump into this. Val has never heard of this movie, but that's not really a lot to say, Val, because you have not seen most of the movies that we talk about on this show. This show is just called Movies Val Should Watch.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll rename the show at a later time. Meg, I loved Meg Ryan's character from start to finish in this because I think they did a really nice job of like she's introduced right from the very beginning, but then they have this like, you know, kind of epic breakup and she storms out and then she's not in the movie for quite a while and then kind of comes back to help save the day. And of course, at that point, Tuck, who is her ex-boyfriend, is miniaturized inside Martin Short's body. So she has to just sort of take Jack at his word that this is all happening. And they don't even really give her all of the information until like the very end as they're already kidnapped. Right. But she just kind of goes along with all of it, which I sort of admire. And she's this total like spunky, is she a reporter? I'm trying to remember if she's a reporter.
Yeah, she's a reporter. Yeah. And that's what I liked about it was that, you know, sometimes in the 80s, they're like, they're not fleshed out really well, like some of the characters. And like there was her at her work arguing with her boss, saying this story is important. And then she was like calling when it found out what was happening, she was calling back to her reporter buddy who kind of followed her instructions. So I liked it that they, you know, she had a real job. She had a real stuff going on. And it just seems like it was a lot, had more, you know, backstory to her than I guess a lot of them do. And I thought it was good. And I did. I mean, she's, you know, at the very beginning, you see why Tuck's kind of a jerk. He, at the end, of course, is, you know, everybody, you know, a nice happy ending at the end, but
slightly less of a jerk, I guess.
Slightly less of a jerk. Yeah. He was a little, he was a little, I mean, he kept a suitcase in his trunk. Yeah. So, because he didn't know where he would wake up. Yeah. Like, he wasn't the best guy.
The best guy. He pulled through.
Yeah. He pulled through. And were you rooting for Martin to get, Jax to get Meg Ryan, you know, to get together at the end, or were you?
I don't know if I was rooting for anyone to be with her per se, but I did find, like, I think that was probably the only part of the movie that I found, like, somewhat awkward, or like I wasn't sure if like the writers really had thought it through, because they have this moment where like Martin Short is clearly like in love with her to some extent, or like, you know, really like infatuated with her, and they're like, you know, they had been like working together to try to save this, and she's broken up with Tuck. Like we don't know exactly like how she feels about anything, and they have that kiss, which then ends up being like this weird plot point, but the kiss kind of felt like it came out of like somewhat out of nowhere. And then I was surprised that, like, given what ended up happening, like given that the end goal was that she would get back together with Tuck, it was weird that she like didn't seem to be like, oh, don't kiss me, I'm in love with Tuck. Like, she had no kind of reaction. She was just like, oh yeah, that's fine, we're kissing now. Like, she was just totally fine with all of it, which felt a little weird. But
well, and that whole thing too, because when I just rewatched it, when he goes, can you just shut off for a minute and not, because he can see what Jack is seeing, and he can hear and all that stuff, and he goes, can you turn off for a little bit? And that led to the switching things, and he didn't know whose body he was in and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't have turned off the camera like you're with my girlfriend. I'm like, no, because he was yelling at him earlier, like to look. He was looking at her legs in the car, and he's like, hey, stop that, buddy. You know, but he was fine turning off the camera so he can make out with his girl. I mean, that was kind of like, okay.
I wonder how much of that is like editing, where I feel like a lot of that stuff ends up like on the, because they had that whole moment where, he turns off the camera and then he ends up in her body, and then he finds out that she's pregnant, and then it like, then they're like clearly really going to be in love and make it all the way through. Right. But it felt like a lot of that, I don't know, that whole exchange in those, 15 minutes of movie, I was kind of like, this sort of feels like it came out of nowhere, and it wasn't. Yeah. It didn't feel. I mean, it was good as the rest of the movie to me.
Right. My thing, I remember in watching, I think it was in the theaters. I was 15. It's hard to remember exact memories, but I do remember being shocked by, that's a baby. Like, it was like, oh, what? How is that possible? Oh, yeah. It's like, oh, yeah. So I thought that was a cool twist. I just thought, stuff that I know now, like, I'm not going to turn off, like, so you can make out with my girlfriend. Sorry.
Exactly. Rewatching it, you're like, wait a second. Let's not do that.
Oh, dude, especially Tuck. That's not in Tuck's character. No. He wouldn't have done it. I mean, I guess that because he felt like he owed Jack because he's, whatever, but he's trying to help him get, big again.
He was close to death. Maybe he was like a little loopy.
Yeah, maybe that was like
low on oxygen.
Maybe. And then, and this even bothered me when I was a kid. So there's one point where Tuck says, "I need a drink," because pretty much Tuck's an alcoholic. If you look at his house, he's got stuff stashed everywhere. The very first scene, he's drunk. Yeah, and
they used to call that in the 80s and 90s. That was just like the bad boy, but now we refer to that as an alcoholic.
Yeah, he was an alcoholic, right? And so there's this one scene where that he says, "I need a drink," and so he has Jack take a big shot of like, I don't know, bourbon or something, and he opens up his hatch, and he was able to put it on the arm of the submersible and stick it out, and that when he drank it went down into that thing. And the whole time, even as a kid, I was like, that's just backwash. You're getting back. I mean, it's like, it's in his mouth and it's going down and then you're drinking it like it's just normal out of your flask. I'm like, ugh, that just grossed me out. So,
that's so funny.
I remember that very vividly.
I didn't think about that at all. I was more just like, if he, wouldn't that affect how, I was just like, wouldn't he die if he opened? I couldn't. Yeah. I'm not a big science person in that I'm an English.
Well, they even said the reason he couldn't go to the lungs and open up his hatch to breathe because the pressure differential. Yeah. So that's why I had to put that thing on the arm to go out. But I'm like, that's still gross. You're drinking after somebody swallows, then you catch it. Ugh, no, thank you. Sorry.
Well, Paul has given us our update. So although the film was released on Independence Day weekend, the advertising for it was minimal and it flopped at the box office. So Jeff, you and your dad were the only people that went to get. No, just kidding.
We were the only ones. That's probably why I liked it. No, but I have always loved Martin Short.
I also
love
Steve Martin.
Steve Martin too. Yeah, I love Steve Martin. Yeah. They're both great together. Yeah. If you've ever seen their Netflix special, and he's very, very talented. And, it's fun to go back and watch his early stuff because it's really, the dancing and the physical comedy. Even falling downstairs. He's just good. He's just a good.
Yeah, or hearing, hearing voices and having whole conversations with the person in his head. Right. The whole changing face part. I also, and I know this isn't Martin Short. This is a different actor, obviously playing the different face. But the actor who did that also did just a fantastic job of
the cowboy guy.
The cowboy guy, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he did
Robert Picardo.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job of just sort of I feel like that kind of acting to me almost seems harder in some ways than more serious roles where it's you need to be you need to be in this personality, but also pretending to be this different personality. And I feel like the layers of that would be tricky.
I think I read somewhere too, is when he was Jack, cause it's basically Jack is disguised him, but the actor's playing, him. He actually changed. It's not Jack's voice. It's his voice higher. And he makes it when he went in to meet with the bad guys, when his tooth came off, remember the whole thing there. That's actually his voice. He's just trying to imitate what Martin Short sounded like. Wow. Because they tried it with a track and it didn't work. And so I think so I thought he did a great job. And he's a good actor too. If you watch Voyager, he's always the holographic doctor who's always on it. So
I love Star Trek. Now we need to do another Star Trek movie. And Paul is also following up that says this is the first film commercially released in Dolby Stereo spectral recording, SR spectral recording, which vastly improved noise reduction and replaced Dolby's original A-type noise reduction used for decades. Thanks, Paul. Paul is our voice of facts.
He is the man. Paul, has Paul seen it? Did he, or is he's just Googling stuff? I want to know if Paul's actually watched
Paul,
it.
You'll have to tell us. I didn't see whether or not Paul had seen it. It looked like most people had not. Yeah. So now all of you, homework for the VHS Club is watching this one.
I didn't. So I own it on Apple. So I don't know if is it streaming somewhere? Did you check when you watched it?
I don't think it was. I now have this new habit, which is probably a terrible habit to have, but I just been purchasing them on Amazon Prime. I'm my threshold is if if to rent it's like $4, but to buy is like 10, I'm like, wow, I'm gonna watch it again. So I just buy it. But
and I think this isn't a bad one for young. I mean, there's a little bit of
I thought the same
butt cheek
thing.
nudity at the beginning, but other than that, I thought it was. I think it's pretty. I mean, my dad took me, and he wouldn't have took me if it was bad. But I just it's just really pretty decent movie. It's not, there's not a lot of bad stuff that parents should be too worried about. But watch it first, of course.
Yeah, well, it is funny. I have this vivid memory of watching the Naked Gun movies with my mom on like sick days, right? And my mom is like not the kind of like she would be way more horrified with watching stuff than like I would with my kids. But so I feel like we must have watched like recorded made for TV versions of it. Like I can't because I rewatched Naked Gun in the last couple of weeks and I'm like, there is no way like that we watched this together. So either my memory is faulty or it's like a made for TV, or because that used to be sort of our thing. It was like if I was homesick, it was like, well, like we'll watch like silly movies and we'll like, we'll just hang out together because she worked from home. So it was like, she was home the entire time. But that and obviously Price is Right and soap operas. But I definitely watched the Naked Gun movies with her. So I don't know. Maybe my memory is
That's
just
hilarious. I just remember growing up, I would have this movie. I'd be so excited to show my parents. And of course, I have forgotten about how filthy the language is or this like long nude scene. And I'm like, we've all been there. It's like, oh my gosh, what do I like? I don't remember that, Mom. Sorry. And it's cringeworthy. Yeah.
Well, I'm getting it all back at me now because I have a 10-year-old who absolutely loves watching movies with me. And I made this rule back when she was like, I mean, probably even before she was born. Then I was like, well, whatever question she asks, like, I'm just going to answer it honestly, which is, I still stand by, but it creates all kinds of very awkward conversations because we were watching the TV show Ghosts the other day, which is a really great show. Yeah. I really like it. And for the most part, it's fine for her. Like, and she loves it. And so this has become like our TV watching thing. And there was an episode in it where there was a stripper. And so she was like, what's a stripper? And so I guess I told her, and I have no memory of it. And then maybe it was like 3 or 4 episodes later, the stripper was back and it was like looking like it was going to be dicey. So I was like, you know what? This is like kind of an adult episode. We'll just skip this episode and we'll watch the next one. And she was like, okay. And then she kind of sat quietly. And then she was like, I remember what a stripper is. You told me it was a person that takes their clothes off for money. I was like, that's it. Yes. That is the answer.
That's it in a nutshell. You got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was just fine.
That is
like
funny.
I was just, and I'm like, huh. Yeah. My parents, we just sat in deadly silence, or my dad was really, really fast with the fast forward button. He was just like on it. It was like, or asked me to get a drink.
We just watched. I just think we watched a lot of just TV. I don't remember watching until the VHS came out. Then we would watch some stuff. But yeah, So I want to know from you, where does this one rank on the Martin Short movies that he's been in? You said you had a favorite one that he was in before that you liked.
Oh gosh,
like, where does this rank for you?
This one's probably pretty high. I still think my favorite one, and again, like I base everything off of like nostalgia and memory, so like how it made me feel in the moment or like what my memory is of it. But I love Pure Luck. If neither of you or any of you watching have not seen that one, it's awesome. And now that I've seen this, now I like immediately need to go back and rewatch Pure Luck. But
right.
But that one's probably my favorite of his movies. This one's probably pretty high. I know that like, some of his more kind of timeless ones are probably higher ranked by people, but I don't know.
Three Amigos. Yeah. Three Amigos is still probably the number one. Yeah.
I like Three Amigos, but I think I like this one and Pure Luck better than that one. How about you?
I think Three Amigos is still, because it's comedy that they have together. Sure. And Steve, and that's when Steve Martin and him met, and that's where the friendship happened. So I'm like, that's kind of cool. So I think that, and then this one probably be second. I'm trying to think of a third. I just keep thinking of, he played Jack Frost in this movie that my kids would watch over and over
Santa Claus.
and over.
Yeah.
Yeah, something. And I was like, okay, that's one I keep thinking of. But I'm
That's
trying
what
to think of-
Josh is saying.
I mean,
Santa Claus. Josh
Yeah.
could only
Yeah.
remember Santa Claus 3. I think it was 3.
I mean,
or 2.
yeah, Only Murders in the Building. And then he was
Oh, so good
also
in that.
in Father the Bride. Remember, he was the decorator.
I love Father of
And
the Bride. That's another one we need to review soon. That was so my
Yeah,
my
that was-
mom is a professional cake decorator, and so that movie
Oh.
quotes that I sometimes can't even remember where they're from. Like for the longest time in our family, that was like the endless joke. It was like she decorates the cacks. She's the cack decorator. It was just like the endless joke. It probably still even to this day a joke in our household.
Yeah.
I really like that one. I had forgotten that he was in that, but yeah, he is.
And what about Dennis Quaid? Like, The Right Stuff was probably the biggest one that I really liked for him. This is probably the second. And I was trying to think he's been in a lot. But I'm trying to think of other good ones. I mean, I don't know.
He's not an actor that, like, if I had to name, like, favorite actors or people where I see it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love, like Meg Ryan. Like, I see Meg Ryan, I'm just like, I love Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
Like, he's one that, like, he's a good actor. He's not really ever been my favorite actor or one I could even probably name a lot of movies, but he's good at what he does. He and Meg Ryan were married for years.
For a long time. Yeah. They had, and there's chemistry here too.
Yeah.
Like, you can see it. So, and Meg Ryan, I thought this was a good one, but I still like Harry Met Sally.
Oh yeah.
Is still I think my
Sleepless
favorite.
in Seattle
And
is
then,
my favorite of Meg Ryan's.
all the ones she did with Tom Hanks.
Oh yeah.
Those were good. Yeah, Sleepless in Seattle.
Sleepless in
And
Seattle
I'm trying to
is
think of
still
any other.
that one's probably in my top 10. I watched that one so many
Really?
times that when I finally went to New York City and got to see the Empire State Building, it like actually wasn't as iconic as it was in my head from that movie. Like I was like, oh, I want like the doors to close at like this perfect moment so you could see the like outline of the like it was close, but it just was like, this is not my. Yeah, I definitely had feelings for that movie. That was my romantic comedy.
So I usually, and this is another question I want to ask you. So I usually don't like movies that don't have a shut door ending, right?
Okay.
I mean, I like everything wrapped up in a bow.
Yep.
That's the way I am. That's just me. I don't want to guess. That nothing hacks me off more than a movie is like, what happened? Are they alive? Did they make it or not? You know, there's some of those you're like going, that I was ripped off. And I don't like those movies. Those aren't fun. But this one didn't wrap it up all in a bow, but it was very. The speech he gives at the end when he goes through each of those people and goes like the girl that worked at it with him was kind of slutty, I guess you'd say, and she wants to go out with him, and he goes, definitely not. And then he goes to the next person like, I quit. You know, that kind of stuff. I love the ending. I thought the ending was very, very clever. It did leave things open, but it was also he's kind of reborn as a new man. What did you think?
Yeah, I like this ending, but I thought this one closed the door enough. So I am the person that I don't want any of the characters that I like to die. Like I lose my mind if anyone like if anyone that I like that isn't a bad guy dies, I'm not okay. Like I hold grudges for long periods of time. And then I can't handle if it's like if the couple that I think needed to be together break up. Like I can't handle if it doesn't have to even be in like a bow, like you said, but if it's left like in a way that doesn't solve what I want my brain to solve. It was like, no, these people need to be together, or like that person needs to be doing this, or like, so this one checked the boxes. Like I like that they ended up married. I like that Martin Short like had this like personal growth and felt like he was like capable and confident. Like, and it didn't feel open door enough that like, I don't know. It would have been worse if like he was driving and then like a car was like chasing down behind him, like as if he was going to be kidnapped again or like, and then it ended. That would have bugged me. But yeah, I don't mind like a little bit of an open door. I don't want like a big cliffhanger, and I don't want anyone to die or end up sad. So I want only happy endings.
You like Barbie movies?
I like Barbie movies. I like the Barbie movies.
They all no. So this one, I was trying to think why I liked it so much, and I think it's because it ticked all the boxes. I mean, I like slapstick comedy like The Naked Gun, but this had like there's comedy, there was science fiction, there was action and adventure because it was like there was that ticking clock where is he going to make
Suspense,
it? Can he get out in time?
It had the
and then
romance in it.
Girl,
Yeah.
And so I mean, I'm very much like I go to movies to escape. I don't want real life at all. Like I remember when we were first married, we went to see My Life, and I don't know if you know that one. It's Michael Keaton. The whole story is he's dying from cancer.
No, I don't want anything to do with that.
He's leaving this. He's leaving a video for his son.
Nope.
And
hard pass.
And we went to this one, and I have never been in a movie where I have heard actual sobbing, like and I'm like, and I remember Jody and I were just, and I bawling like, and I was a young guy, like I was pretty tough, I thought, but my throat hurt because I had a lump in it for so long in the theater, and I'm like, I don't do those movies. That's not fun for me. This movie
that's not
was fun.
for me.
This was fun.
I don't think I realized that before I started doing this show. I don't think that I realized that I had some of these rules. They were just like internal things that I didn't realize. So I started doing this show, and then I realized that like, oh, I actually like really, really love like comedies that I don't, and I'd missed them because I feel like they don't do them as often anymore. And I didn't realize exactly what you just said there. Like I was talking with one of my friends a couple weeks ago, and she was like, I don't watch any dramas. Like these days I only watch like romantic comedies, comedy, like it only escapism. Like she just has like a hard line. She's like, nope, we just don't.
Yeah.
Like it's just not what we do in the house. And I don't think I've ever had like that hard line, but I definitely don't like to watch. Like I typically steer away from anything that's like a true story, inspired by a true story, an Oscar winner. Like don't want anything to do with any Oscar movies. Like I just want like an action adventure or a comedy or a romance, or I mean ideally like a mix of all of them. But yeah, I think this one did actually do a really nice job of kind of helping us to escape. Josh is with us. Josh says he feels the same way. He watches movies to escape life.
Yes, that's what we're in for. But you know what? This movie did win an Oscar. It won for best visual effects.
I'm okay with any movies that win for visual effects or music or whatever. You know what?
Right.
But then I say that, and like literally off to the side here that you can't see is a giant laminated movie poster from the movie Titanic, which I saw probably 800 times. And James Cameron,
you liked it that much?
I loved it, and I haven't seen it in forever. But I'm working my way up to watching it. Again, of course, my 10-year-old is like, "Can we watch Titanic?" And I was like, "Well, I don't think we're like." She was like, "Well, what happens?" I was like, "Well, the boat sinks." Like,
everybody dies. Yeah,
put that out there with you. But yeah, it is interesting. Everyone is agreeing. Kathy says same. That's why she doesn't like reality TV. It is we're there, and Paul has seen this one many, many times, so we're in.
Good.
I
knew I like Paul. Yeah.
Paul's in, and Josh is sharing a moment. Yeah, it is funny, family movie night. So Josh says the only movie that I remember seeing with my parents that they actually fast forwarded through was Casino Royale, where during the torture scene. Yeah,
with James Bond. Oh yeah,
yeah,
with the rope. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, I did a lot of this.
I remember when I was a kid, we walked out of a movie. I'm trying to remember which one it was. It may have been some weird one like Ice Pirates or something, and my parents probably just didn't understand it. I don't know. But it was I remember we did walk out of one. So anyway.
I can't.
But yeah, so this was.
For walking out of any.
Yeah, I remember we got our popcorn and left. Let's see. I'm trying to. So Meg Ryan, Dennis Quaid, Martin Short. We kind of went through those. We liked the ending. I mean, I think that I wish they'd make more of these. I don't know. Could you make this movie in the era we live in now? Is it too silly?
This is an interesting question because I think yes, but up until very recently would have told you that you cannot remake movies like Naked Gun and Anchorman and like what there's like a whole series of movies that like are just like slapsticky and are probably just not even kind of politically correct anymore, but they're remaking Naked Gun. So I guess we'll see on the other side of it. I think
he'll be hilarious.
I think it'll be hilarious, but
you would not think of Liam Neeson being that character. You just would not.
I mean, no one is going to be as awesome as Leslie, but we'll see what happens.
Right. Did you see the clip? It was going around on Easter where he's in the Easter Bunny outfit.
No, I've been trying to like avoid teasers for it. I don't know.
No, this isn't for. He just did it. I think it's for Saturday Night Live.
No.
I gotta send it to you because it's hilarious. Because I mean, he is so not the person, and that's why it makes it so funny. I think
he's a good sport. So. He definitely is a good sport.
Did we do? You didn't do the potato rating yet.
We have not. We're at that point though, so only Paul can rate because everyone else has not yet seen this. So if you are hanging out with us in our live studio audience and you haven't seen this yet, you can rate on whether or not we've convinced you to watch this. And if you're Paul, you can rate on how much you enjoyed this movie. As usual, the rating systems for this movie are completely up to me. And they're based entirely on nostalgia and how I feel in the moment. So they're not an indicator as to whether or not this is a good movie or not. But I will say I did find, and I'll have to drop it into the show notes afterwards, but I found a Roger Ebert review of this movie, and he actually really enjoyed it. And he normally is a little bit difficult with these kinds of movies. So he thought it was just a fun watch, which I agree with him. I think all the way through, fun watch. That is what I would say.
Yeah. I think it got a bad rap that it didn't get in the box office more. It didn't perform well. Because the special effects, like we said, still hang up and stuff. But go ahead and give us your potatoes.
All right. I should get a drum roll to really like fully. I don't have a drum roll. Oh, I do. Yay! I gave 4. I went with 4 if you're listening and not watching. 4 Christian taters on this one. Again, it's a rating out of 5. Although I think one of them we gave... we just filled the whole screen with it, so maybe it's a rating on what we feel like. Paul is with us. Paul gave this one 4. I think this is a solid 4.
I would say 4.5, but we can't do half potatoes.
Well,
so,
you know what? With Ecamm, anything is possible. Let me see if I can.
Oh, that's true.
If I just duplicate it, and then what did I do last time? Oh, I just stuck it off to the side like this.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
And this is the Slater tater. Is that what it is?
So he's had many, many names. I've been calling him Christian Tater. Originally, we called him, what was it? It was Christian. Yeah, maybe it was Christian Tater. No, that was what we liked. He had a whole bunch of different names.
So I don't know if it was the 80s or 90s, but I have this. It was one of those really bad, good movies. And I think maybe he's in it. And all I remember is he's driving a jet ski in a school. Like it's flooded, and I think Morgan Freeman's in it. Maybe somebody help me with it. Is it called Riptide? Was he in Riptide?
Oh, maybe.
I'm trying.
Oh, you're gonna have to make me live search on my phone. All right, here we go.
I just there. And I just remember him going through. I think it's him. I'm pretty sure it is. It was kind of that same era when like Broken Arrow came out with John Travolta when they lost the nuke, which is one of my other favorite like crazy movies.
I don't see it. There's a 2017 movie called Riptide, but that's not the same.
I got to look up now. Christian.
All right. You'll have to tell us. Well, Josh is telling me it's been Christian Tater since at least he started watching the show. I'm trying to think what else we called him. Maybe it was Tater Slater. We had like different names for the initial name I had for him wasn't as good, and then Nat came up with Christian Tater, and so here we are. I will say, if you are looking for a ridiculous gift to send a friend, you can send a potato in the mail, and potatoes last a preposterous amount of time, and you can put any face on it. It's so really, you could just win every single gift giving experience.
He's been in a lot of movies.
He's been in a lot of movies. Stuff. I don't know if you've ever done this.
There's a lot of voiceover.
I like absolutely love. So Nat's favorite person ever is Christian Slater, hands down. Mine is probably still John Cusack. And at one point I was like, I'm going to watch all of John Cusack's movies. I think I was even like, I'm going to own all of John Cusack's movies and I'm going to watch all of them. I'm going to know everything. And then I got maybe like halfway through and I was like, I realized that like, I really only like 1980s John Cusack, and then past that, like a little bit into the 90s, and then like the later movies, I was like, I don't care for any of these ones. I don't really want to own any of these. I don't want to see all of them. It got a little intense.
Hard Rain. Hard Rain.
I have seen that one. That's a good one.
I think that's it, because it's a flood, isn't it?
Yeah.
And isn't he driving jet skis and like okay?
I can
in
see the box, and I can see the box, and I can see a couple scenes. I don't remember the jet ski. We'll have to add that one to the
I
list.
think Morgan Freeman's in it too, is he? Yep, he is. Ha! And Randy Quaid is in it as well.
There we go. Well, you'll have to come back, and we'll do that one. We'll take it.
Hard Rain and Broken Arrow is another one of my favorite Christian Slater's movies.
Broken Arrow is a great one. Well,
so this has been fun.
It's been
I like
so
this.
fun.
I'm glad you made me watch it again.
Yeah, thank you so much for choosing it. This is now my new favorite thing, is hearing what people's favorite movies are, or what movies like have stuck with them, and it's never what I would expect, and it's always fun. Like I've yet to find one where I'm like, oh, that was really disappointing. So it's been
well.
good so far.
I am stoked that got 4 taters out of the deal, because that's pretty awesome.
4.5. We have a half there to your right. So
yeah,
we're
half
really,
one. Yeah, yeah.
We're really killing it.
I like the tater ranking. Yeah.
Well, we cannot let you leave without telling us a
cool.
little bit about your show. So let us know, because it's tomorrow that it's on. So if people
that's
don't
right,
know
it
you,
is.
I think
I gotta
most of our people know you, but in case they don't, feel free to let us know about your show.
So, yes. So tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central, we do a show every Friday called Social Media News Live. And this one, we have Brooke Sellis on. I heard her talk at she's been on the show before, but she was speaking at Social Media Marketing World, and she had a really great presentation about the dopamine machine, because she's all about social proof and how, like, you know, likes don't count anymore, which we all know. And so she's got some really cool stuff. So she'll be talking about that tomorrow. And by the way, if you look at the graphic, I am in love with the new ChatGPT stuff, because it's so much easy to it's so easy to make graphics. So it has a really great her getting some stuff out of a dopamine machine. So that was kind of fun to put together. So
Be sure to check it out.
tomorrow.
Social Media News Live Fridays. It's definitely a fun one. I always love being on it. I love watching it. It's a blast. So definitely check it out. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, Jeff. It's been so fun.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Yeah, we gotta pick some more, and I love talking about all this stuff.
Absolutely. Okay, well, Jeff will be back on, and there'll be another Jeff here next week, and we're going to talk all about Grease.
That's right.
Which is going to be really exciting, because Grease is the word. And also, Kathy and
Right.
Kenny want to do Grease too. So once we get through Grease next week, then we can bring Kathy and Kenny on to talk about Grease too. So we can really go all in on the entire musical original high school musical vibes. It should be a lot of fun.
Were you in Grease ever? Because you were drama stuff. Did you do Grease?
So I was not in Grease. I was in Wizard of Oz, and then I went to high school, and I was definitely not as talented as the other high school students. So I did not make the cut for Grease, but it is one of my favorites. So I'm excited to watch that one.
Our friend Lou Mangello was in Grease, and there's a tape somewhere that everybody has been trying to find. I think he was Danny Zuko.
All right, well,
so
now I have a week to
we
look
gotta
that
find that
up, so that I can play it as the intro to our Grease episode. Well, if you're interested in checking out Grease, you have to join us next Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, here on YouTube. And we are doing a giveaway, which I know some of you are not yet following us on Instagram, but if you want to show your favorite family movie night experience, we have our fun new, as Jeff was saying, I've been also playing with some of the ChatGPT AI graphics, and we made little 8-bit versions of Nat and myself for some fun merch. So if you want to win something fun, you'll have to swing over to Instagram and share your favorite family movie night story. And I think that's it for announcements. Other than that, we'll see you next Thursday and most Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for hanging out, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.
Bye,
See you guys
everyone.
later.
Yeah,